All right, and with that, I'd like to welcome you guys all to today. Trust me, this is just where I'm at today. All right, your personal security expert, leveraging AI to understand and act on Jamf Protect. Today, we're gonna have Mike Levenick speaking to you. You may also hear from Summer, one of his colleagues as well. And so with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Mike. Go ahead and take it away.
Hey everybody, my name is Michael Levenick, and I'm currently the Quality and Safety Engineer for AI initiatives here at Jamf. So I do a lot of QA stuff and also just sort of being the voice of the customer and trying to make sure that the AI that we are creating is as safe, unbiased, and bug-free as possible. I also am the creator of a tool you might be familiar with known as the Mutt. But before joining the AI team, I cut my teeth in support at Jamf, spent a lot of years in support, did premium support for a while, and then I joined the Protect team for a period of time. So I have a lot of experience with the types of frustrations and issues that Mac admins like yourself run into, and I also have some experience in the security space as well, but right now I'm on the AI team, which is why I will be presenting on the Jamf AI Assistant, your personal security expert. So to start out, we're going to do a little bit of a level set, just make sure that we're all on the same page about some terms and things. We'll do a deep dive into the AI Assistant and specifically how it works and how some of its functionality work around the security tools and things like that. We'll look at some demos of the AI Assistant, analyzing some alerts. This is basically an extended version of what you saw in the keynote, if you were paying attention to that. And then there will be some tips for success, because what I say often to folks is if we were making a complicated app, I always go to Adobe InDesign as my example because it's an incredibly powerful tool that can be a little bit complicated to use. You have to learn how to use it, but a lot of folks don't like to think that you also should learn some tips for using AI successfully as well. So we'll spend some time on that, and then we'll talk about the future, and we will have time for Q&A at the end. Now, if you're here at JNUC, you've probably heard of some of these things, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page about a couple of things. The first is Jamf Pro. This is Jamf's flagship MDM for Apple devices, and it does a lot of different things. It can keep track of your inventory, and it does app management, but specifically I want to take a moment to talk about config profiles and policies. So looking at those two things specifically, policies are actions that happen on a machine. Things like scripts and whatnot, they arrive on a trigger and they are pulled down by the client and then run when that trigger happens. So a policy is going to run when something like check-in, login, startup, network state change happen. They're pulled down and then run. Config profiles, on the other hand, are often used for enforcement of settings, compliance and things of that nature. They arrive more or less instantly, as fast as you might receive an iMessage or something like that, and they are pushed out via the Apple Push Notification service. So there is a distinction between those two things, and I still get them confused every now and then, and the distinction is a little bit important for what we're going to be talking about today. The next thing that we are going to take a look at is Jamf Protect macOS. Now, this is Apple endpoint security tool for Mac devices provided by Jamf. And it has a few different things that it can do. Some of the key ones are we can detect and remediate known threats. And then additionally, we have behavior-based detection. So these are things that we might not know are bad, but the behavior that we're seeing is really suspicious. It's the example of you go to the doctor, you get tested for COVID and the flu and H1N1, and they all come back negative. So they send you to work, but you're coughing and sneezing and you get a fever of 103. I don't need a positive test to know that you're sick and something is wrong and we should do something about it. Those are behavior-based detections. And then additionally, we have telemetry data. And so the difference between these is something that I want to talk a little bit about as well. These behavior-based detections are very focused, and they only, for the most part, show real events. So this is something that has been determined is probably suspicious behavior, and we probably want to investigate. Behavior-based detections are fairly easily filtered right in the interface. You can do a bunch of different things to filter them in different ways. And it's also usually fairly obvious what happened with a behavior-based detection. You may not know why it happened. You might not know how much you're supposed to care, but there's enough information in the interface that you can kind of figure out what's going on. And so we have a very high signal-to-noise ratio. If we have a behavior-based detection that fired, especially if it's low, medium, or high, we want to be paying attention to it. Telemetry data, on the other hand, shows everything. Every file that was ever created, modified, deleted on a machine, every network connection that was made, every process that executed or was terminated. It is just a mountain of data, and it's possible but really difficult to filter for the most part. It's not always obvious what's going on when you're looking at a telemetry stream. There's a ton of noise, and typically we're only referencing it after an alert. So we received a behavior-based detection, we know something went wrong, we can go digging through the telemetry and try to figure out what might be happening, but most folks aren't going to be sitting there staring at the telemetry stream unless they have a good reason to. Up next, we have the Jamf AI Assistant. You've probably heard a lot about it this week especially. This is a Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG, chat assistant. Now, RAG is a pretty cool thing. We're not the only ones doing it, but I think we do it really well. And basically what RAG is, you might not be surprised to learn that AI can sometimes do a thing called hallucination, also known as confidently lying to you. And we don't like it when that happens. It's not good. We want to minimize it as much as possible. This happens when you ask a question and the AI wants to give you an answer. AI wants to please you. It wants to provide an answer. But if it doesn't have all the information it needs, it's still going to try. And that's not always great. But one of the things that AI is generally very, very good at is summarizing information that is provided to it. So we take an AI, an LLM, a large language model, which is a type of AI, and we combine it with a search engine. And so this AI is given a question, and it can then reach out through this search engine and search through a bunch of data, and it can pull in objectively true information and then summarize it and provide an answer. And this can significantly reduce hallucinations. Really, the main times we encounter hallucinations in a RAG environment are if we just simply don't have a document that could solve the answer, or if for whatever reason the question was phrased in such a way that the assistant couldn't find the correct documentation for one reason or another. So that's RAG, that's what we do. It's pretty cool. We have a wealth of different data sources in here. It's basically all of the things that admins like yourselves are going to go out to and look into when you're trying to find an answer. All of our Jamf product documentation is in there. A collection of solution-provided cases that have been anonymized, which isn't something that you have access to, but that is all fed in there as well. We have some knowledge base articles and internal wikis and things like that as well. So all of that information is sort of aggregate into this gigantic data pool that the AI assistant has the ability to search through, pull in documentation, and spit out answers. Additionally, it has tool integrations with other Jamf products, namely Jamf Pro and very soon Jamf Protect. So that's the Jamf AI Assistant. Up next, we have the Jamf Threat Labs team. You may or may not know that this team even exists, but it is a team of super smart folks that work at Jamf that basically spend all day figuring out how and why hackers do what they do. How are they attacking your device? Why are they doing it? And what sorts of indicators of compromise do those attacks leave? If somebody breaks into your house by smashing the window, that smashed window is an indicator of compromise. And when hackers break into your computer, there are similar things that we can sort of look for. And these folks are so smart that they are able to understand all of that noise in the telemetry that we talked about. You or I may look at this and think it looks like a bunch of gibberish, but to the Jamf Protect Threat Labs team, it's like Cypher from the Matrix. They don't even see the code. All they see is backdoor, persistence, defense evasion. Now the problem. Jamf Protect is very powerful, but not everybody is a security expert, and you may not have your own Threat Labs team working for you. But what if you did? And so we come back to my title slide, the Jamf AI Assistant, your personal security expert. And we're going to take a quick deep dive into just how this thing actually works. So when this is loaded up and functional, you can be on an alert in Jamf Protect and say something along the lines of like, hey, what does this alert mean? Tell me about this alert, whatever. And it is going to fetch the raw JSON for that alert from the Jamf Protect API. It does a little bit of cleanup, strips out some information we don't need, anonymizes it and things like that. And then it analyzes that alert data using a prompt that was actually engineered with the help of the Jamf Protect Threat Labs team. So these folks that spend all day, every day thinking about how hackers do what they do are helping our team figure out the best way to take a look at these alerts and figure out what sort of stuff we should be looking at. Additionally, in that giant pool of data that I had talked about previously, we also get a malware wiki that the Threat Labs team keeps and maintains. They load that information into our data pool so that the AI assistant has additional knowledge on various malwares and things like that, which is incredibly powerful. From there, we can pivot from an alert to telemetry. There's a configurable time window from 1 to 15 minutes. It's typically around 10 by default that it's going to try to do. But if you're looking at an alert, it may offer, or you can ask it to search through telemetry information within a window before and after that. And it can take all of that in context, combined with the alert, and then help to build out a timeline of what exactly happened. It's going to focus on things like command arguments, process lineage, execution data, the types of things that Jamf Protect Threat Labs say are important. And it will put together a timeline and help explain what is going on and provide remediation suggestions as well. So once we know what happened, what's next after that? The AI assistant can provide some suggested fixes. These are going to go into a Jamf Pro policy, which is why we talked about the difference previously. But effectively, it can build out a script to help remediate. It is not free-form scripting on its own. The AI is not going to be building a script all on its own and executing it across your devices. Have no fear about that. That would scare me as well. But it is a pre-made script that has parameters that has, again, been provided by our team as well as help from the Jamf Protect Threat Labs team. And the AI can fill in these parameters for things like PID or process name, file path, whatnot. And it can provide different actions that it will take, such as killing processes, quarantining files, removing persistence, which is a fancy word for if you reboot your computer, that malware is going to start itself back up. It will persist through things like a reboot. And very often on Macs, those are done with things like launch agents and launch daemons and whatnot like that. So we can kill processes, quarantine files, remove persistence. It's not free-form scripting. It will then create that policy, scope it to a single machine, and there is human in the loop at that point. It will not build the script without you confirming that it should do so. And then as soon as you say, yes, you should do that, it will provide a link out to the Jamf Pro policy execution log, so you can monitor the execution of that policy in real time, watch it execute on that machine once the trigger takes place, and have confirmation that everything was done. Pretty cool stuff. We're going to take a look at a couple of examples here. Again, this is sort of the extended version of what you saw in the keynote. The first example that we're going to be taking a look at is an info stealer. These are sort of all the rage right now. Effectively, what an info stealer is somebody pretending to be something like your bank login or something like that. Maybe it's an app installer and it says, please type your username and password here to install this application. Please type your username and password here to request a brand new phone. Whatever it is, it's trying to get you to provide information that it will then steal. So taking a look at this, we have a info stealer alert pulled up here in Jamf Protect, and we just ask, hey, what happened here? I'm going to note that none of these videos are sped up or cut in any way. This is all happening in real time, but it reached out to the Jamf Protect API. It pulled in the alert information and says, hey, this is what this is. It's somebody trying to steal your information. It then provides a recommendation of searching through the telemetry with a given window. All we need to do is click on that to confirm. This telemetry search does take a little bit of time when I don't cut the video, just to show you, because it is pulling in such a wealth of information and processing it. But now we can see that it's done. And again, it begins putting together an incredibly verbose timeline of exactly what happened, how this thing arrived on the device, and what that means for us. From here, I'm not a security expert, so I ask it, hey, can you explain like I'm 5? Which again is something that, in general, AIs are pretty darn good at doing this type of information translation. And so it says, hey, yeah, sounds good. A bad guy tried to steal stuff from you, tried to steal information by pretending to be somebody that they weren't. The good news is that your security guard, Jamf Protect, stopped it, no damage was done, your computer and passwords are safe, and then I say, hey, my boss is freaked out about this alert. Help me draft an email to my boss explaining what happened, because I don't have the words to do that on my own, and it gives us an email that we can send off to the boss. The next thing that we're going to take a look at, and this is specifically the example that you saw in the keynote, but time stomping, we'll talk a little bit more about right now. This is a method of defense evasion. So if a malicious actor puts malware on your machine, and your machine starts behaving badly, you might say, oh, I'm going to look for relatively new files that just appeared because my computer is doing something it wasn't doing last week. So malicious actors can modify the date and timestamps on a file and make it look like it's been around for years. This is probably going to be used in combination with something like naming that file in such a way to evade detection. They're not just going to put a file called malware on your machine and then make it look old. But it's a form of defense evasion that looks suspicious. We almost never want to have a file pretend that it is older than it is. So once again, we have a timestamp daemon alert pulled up here in Jamf Protect, and we can just ask something along the lines of what happened here. It says, I see you're looking at a Jamf Protect alert. Again, this is where it is pulling in that raw alert JSON from the API, and it gives us an assessment of the risk and offers that telemetry pivot again here. This telemetry pivot, I think, is one of the most important and powerful aspects of this tool, because again, that telemetry information is incredibly powerful. There's a ton of information in there, but I am not going to be able to just dig through on my own and figure out what's going on. The AI Assistant is pulling in like thousands and thousands of events and can put it all together. It says, yeah, this is a critical discovery. This is malware. Here's what happened. Here's how the thing got installed. And then from here, it's going to provide the recommended remediation steps. Again, this is the not freeform scripting, but we check all those boxes. It has a script with parameters. It builds that script, puts it into Jamf Pro, and then once it is done uploading that to Jamf Pro, it'll give us a quick summary of everything that that script is going to do, and it will provide a link out to the policy log. So it says, hey, here's what it does. It's going to quarantine. It's going to process terminate. It is going to gather some forensic evidence, and then there is the link to the policy log. We can click on that, and we can see that remediation is currently pending, but if we waited around, we would see that go to completed. Now, we can do more with this. We can compare two different alerts. If we pull one alert up and we ask about it, we can then pivot to another alert that may or may not be related. It can pull that second alert in, and it can compare them. It can look at timestamps. It can look at the user. It can look at process hierarchy. And it can give us a really solid understanding of whether or not two given alerts were related. If somebody was doing testing and another alert came in at around the same time, we want to know if that other alert is related to their testing, or if perhaps just by coincidence, a malicious actor happened to attack us at around the same time. It can help communicate the issue, as we saw, offering remediation suggestions. It can also offer suggestions for future proofing. If it detects that this thing happened because somebody plugged in a flash drive, maybe it will recommend that you start restricting flash drives or something like that. And one of the coolest things that I think that it can do is it can help identify testing versus legitimate threats. This actually caused problems when I was trying to build this presentation, because the attacks that I was doing looked like testing, because I was not actually attacking my own machine, and therefore the AI assistant was not providing remediation suggestions because it knew that this stuff had already been cleaned up. It knew that this was just testing. I was a little bit proud and a bit frustrated. And so basically what I had to do was remake my attack to be much more malicious and actually just built a crypto miner and installed it on my machine through methods that nobody would ever do for normal testing. So if we look at this environment, for example, we have two different plist disguised as Apple alerts. This is another form of defensive evasion. It might be used in combination with time stomping. Plists are often used for like launch daemons and things like that, which again is a form of persistence. And so if somebody is trying to make it so their malware sticks around, they want to name that file in such a way that you're not going to be suspicious of it. It's not called com.cryptominer.plist. It's called com.apple.keyboardsettings.plist. So we have two different plist disguised as Apple. They are both medium alerts. We have multiple different threat preventions in here. They are all low priority alerts. But if we click into the first threat prevention down here at the bottom, a process was denied execution. So Jamf Protect stopped this threat. Nothing was actually executed, but we can ask about the alert here. And again, it is pulling that alert JSON from the API. It says, hey, this is the execution of something called icar. For those of you who don't know, icar is basically a string that does nothing, but the entire security world has agreed to treat it like malware, so you can do this type of testing with it. From there, I can click into a different alert, this plist disguised as Apple. I say, hey, this happened at around the same time. Is this related? And it's going to pull all of this JSON in, compare them in different ways. It says, yes, this is absolutely related. The same user did it. They were both generated from the same script called generatetestalerts.sh, which looks like testing. And so this is where it says, hey, this was all testing. This was all related. I say, what evidence do you have that this was testing? And it actually takes that as a little bit of a challenge. And it says, well, hey, here's my evidence that it's testing, but on the other hand, this might be a real threat. You should pay attention. Here's everything that I have that makes it look real. Here's everything that I have that makes it look false, and allows you to make a more informed decision. But we can dig into another alert here. We're going to click into another low priority threat prevention alert, and we can ask the AI assistant about this alert instead. And it says that Jamf Protect successfully blocked a cryptocurrency miner that was named Media Controller. This was a crypto miner that was masquerading as something else. So I'm like, masquerading? I'm going to click into this plist disguised as Apple, because that's also a form of defensive evasion through masquerading. This took place at the same time. Are these related? You're familiar with this by now, but it pulls in the JSON. It says, yeah, these are related. This demonstrates a sophisticated malware attack. Thanks, AI Assistant. From here, we can do the telemetry pivot, and it's going to put together a complete picture of what happened. It's going to see that effectively what I had done was I built a PKG that installed VLC, which is a video player. So I'm installing VLC, and at the same time, I'm laying down a crypto miner. I'm installing a launch daemon that is pretending to be from Apple. We're kicking all of that off so that this crypto miner keeps running even if you reboot your computer. And I'm sending all of that sweet, sweet cryptocurrency off to a wallet. And it puts together this attack timeline explaining all of that for you. And it's going to again say, this is a really big deal. This has significant indicators of an actual attack. And there we can see what we didn't get last time, which is the remediation pop-up. So all of this is really cool, but AI isn't perfect. But it can be really good, and there are some things that we can do to sort of improve our chances of getting successful results here. The first one is to provide context, not conclusions. AI can be misled. Try your hardest not to. And this can happen even accidentally. As you saw, I simply asked it, what evidence do you have, which I thought was a fairly neutral question, and it took that as a challenge and wanted to swing the pendulum a little bit. So AI really wants to please you, and at the end of the day, it's just a probability machine spitting out the most likely next token. And the fact is that if you steer the conversation in a certain direction, that changes the probability of the next likely token that is going to come out and will change the course of your conversation. So some negative examples. I'm pretty sure that this is normal admin behavior. What do you think? That might lead it into thinking that this is a false positive. Does this look like a false positive to you? Again, feels like a fairly neutral question, but that is a bit leading. Instead, we can say things like, what patterns do you see in this alert data? Or what do you think of this alert? Tip number 2, this one is a big one, especially with the knowledge retriever aspect, where you're searching through documentation to get answers on how to do something. Don't assume possibility, let the AI search for options. What I mean by this is if you say something like, how do I use Jamf Protect to block unapproved keyboards from being plugged in? The AI assistant is going to, for better or worse, assume that you know what you're talking about and that it is possible to block unapproved keyboards from being plugged in with Jamf Protect, which it's not, and it is going to do its darndest to provide you an answer which is going to be incorrect. You are going to get a hallucination if you ask that question. How do I block launch agents from being created with Jamf Pro? Again, we can search for them, we can delete them, we can't really stop them from being created without some serious scripting and crazy things happening. Instead, we can say things like what options are available for data loss prevention with Jamf. What are the key features of Jamf Protect? Again, keeping it fairly neutral. You can ask about specific features. Don't let me think that you can't, but you just don't want to try to lead it into believing that something is for sure possible when you don't know if it is or not. Tip number 3, feel free to get a bit verbose. More information is almost always better. This one might come as a surprise for some of you, especially if you've been using AI for a long time. I feel like in the early days of ChatGPT, it could get hung up if I asked too long of a question and it would get confused and kind of start freeform hallucinating a lot easier. But these days, the models handle it really, really well. Additional information in the context will almost always help the LLM make a better decision. And asking it, these are real things that I have seen when looking through some of the negative feedback on the AI assistant. Folks will open it and just type config profiles and then be upset with the answer that it gives. Expense reports, DLP best practices. If I went up to one of my coworkers and I just shouted config profiles in their face, they would have no idea how to help me, and the AI assistant doesn't either. It does not know what you want when you ask that. Instead, we can say something fairly verbose like this, a little scenario that I made up. We're a 500-user healthcare organization. We use Epic EHR. We have access to Pro, Protect, macOS. We use Ubiquity Wireless, et cetera, et cetera. I want to do DLP. What are your recommendations? Tip number 4, trust but verify. This was a little bit of a slogan that we had back when I was in support, and I'm a really big fan of it. AI is going to do a great job of aggregate information for you, but you should read that. You should double check what it's providing you. I am a really big fan of, if I have a problem and I don't know what the problem is, I can go out to an AI assistant and I can describe what's happening, and it's going to give me some ideas of what that might be. But I'm not going to take that at face value. I'm going to do my own research. I might talk to a human. I might try to read an article that was hopefully written by a human about that thing and learn a little bit more and confirm that what it told me was the problem is for sure what I'm seeing. And one of the really cool things that I did not mention in here at all, but with that RAG aspect, when it pulls in sources, there'll be a little newspaper icon down at the bottom. And if you click that, it's going to list out every source that it used to answer your question. And if you have access to that source, like a Jamf product documentation link, you can click right on it. It'll take you out to it. You can do your own reading. So a lot of folks are leveraging this just as an incredibly powerful search tool, which is also really, really cool. So where do we go from here? All of these things are really, really cool, but sort of what's next? If you've ever heard of an MCP, we are entertaining the idea of putting all of these features into an MCP that may be available for you. So if you have your own Claude desktop or something like that, you could, in theory, integrate with our MCP, use your own prompt, pull information out of Jamf Protect or Jamf Pro, and have access to all of those things. You'll enable it once in Jamf account, and it will work all across the different things. This is not available yet, and I don't think I can guarantee even that it will happen, just because I don't want to overpromise and then underdeliver. But I do know that it's something that we're very, very interested in, and we're looking at hopefully sometime next year. And that is everything from me. We have some time for Q&A now.
Coming your way.
We'll give her just a second to get the microphone up here.
So the most important question, when will it be released?
The security aspect of it?
Yeah, for Protect.
Yeah. I don't want to give a firm answer on that because I like my job. And they get really grumpy with us when we provide release dates that then we don't always have the ability to meet and maintain. But I can tell you that my team, this is #1 priority for my entire team. We're working very hard on it. It's at a point where you can come up to the booth and see it. I think we just have a few I's to dot and T's to cross to make sure that everything is ready for you. I think it's probably safe to say hopefully by the end of the year. Yeah, some of it by the end of the year. Yeah, first half of the year.
Actually, that was my question, but I have a couple of other questions as well. So besides identifying the threats and giving detailed information about the threats that's been detected, does it also do the remediation part or the self-healing? And also with regards to the Jamf Pro as well, I wanted to understand, rather than fetching the information, does it also do the automation part?
So the first question was around the, like not only is it looking at these alerts, but is it also providing the remediation? Is that right? Yep, that is something that I think when Summer said some of it, these are multiple different features that we're offering. The ability to look at an alert is one feature. The ability to pivot to telemetry is a feature. The ability to provide remediation and upload it to Jamf Pro and then provide a link to it and all of that is yet another feature. And putting all of those things together is a really cool workflow. But all of those things are features that we are actively working on that we do plan to have available hopefully very soon.
Is it about providing information about how to do the remediation, or does it actually do the remediation on its own, like kind of automating the entire process?
Yeah, great question. So I'm going to give you a really long answer, which anybody who knows me knows that that's my way. If it was a Jamf Protect alert from threat prevention, it does not need remediation. Jamf Protect blocked that execution. If it is something that our parameter script is able to provide remediation for, it is going to provide that remediation for you that you can then upload to Pro and do. If it feels that there is remediation that may be needed that isn't provided by that script, but is something that would be good for you to do, I would hope that it would provide that freely. But if it doesn't, you can always just ask the follow-up question, is there anything that I need to do to remediate this? Is there anything that I can do to stop this from happening in the future? And it will, again, pull in additional documents if it feels the need to do so, and then provide you the best answer that it can.
Not just about the answers, will it do the process by itself?
If that is something that can be done with the script that we have given it, which can do, it can kill processes, it can quarantine files, and it can remove persistence, and then gathering forensic data. If it is one of those 4 actions, it will do the process. It will create the script, upload it to Pro, scope it, and kick it off. Yep.
And is that the same case with Jamf Pro? Would it be automating the scripts and also help in configuring the different policies or creating smart groups on its own so that it doesn't require any manual efforts from the Jamf admin side? Is that?
Yeah, so that's a different capability. We do have integrations with Jamf Pro as well, and I may be misunderstanding the question, but I think I have a handle on it. You're asking about its ability to do things just in general, like building policies and config profiles and things like that?
Yeah, about the automation again. rather than just providing the answers to the questions. Also automating the entire process, like about configuring the policies, automating the scripts, and things like that.
A lot of that is not available in the product today. It is a very interesting use case that we could definitely take a look at. But right now, it's more, within Jamf Pro, it's more read capabilities. So it can look at what you have and provide recommendations, but it will not do the actual execution of that.
Okay, and one more question.
Sure.
With regards to the security aspect, right, like it has an integration with Jamf Protect. So Jamf Protect already has all of this information where it provides a complete analysis of the threats, the risks being detected, and also the remediation workflow, like what exactly, how do you do this remediation. So there is a section I have seen there in the demo part. So is that the information which is already there in Jamf Protect that is fetching it from there, or does it also provide additional analysis apart from what it fetches from the Jamf Protect?
Excellent question, and one that I wasn't sure if anybody would pick up on, because in one of my early slides, I explicitly call out behavior-based detections are usually pretty obvious what was happening, and then I tell you how the AI assistant can explain what was happening with a behavior-based detection. So the question is, why do I care? These behavior-based detections already have really great descriptions that are written that can kind of tell you what's going on. The main benefit here is the ability to do things like putting together a holistic picture of the entire attack chain. Because a plist disguised as Apple, I can know what a plist disguised as Apple is. I can know why a malicious actor might want to do that. But it can be harder for me to know how this specific plist got on my computer, how it got to be disguised to be from Apple, and does that have any other information surrounding it that seems especially suspicious? And that's one example that I think is relatively easy to wrap your head around, but this can, with any of these given alerts, we can see objectively what this thing is. A lot of the description that you see comes from something known as the MITRE ATT&CK framework, which is effectively a giant matrix of all of these different behaviors that malicious actors may want to do, the reasons for them. And if you have follow-up questions on a given threat that you want to trust but verify, Googling MITRE ATT&CK framework, it's M-I-T-R-E, MITRE ATT&CK framework is a really great place to go. It will explain exactly why a malicious actor might want to do this thing, but that doesn't mean that this alert was from a malicious actor. It doesn't, we can know why somebody might want to do this, but it's a lot harder to know why somebody did it this time, on this machine, on this day. And so that's where the power, I mentioned really the power especially comes from that telemetry pivot, because there is just a mountain of information in Jamf Protect telemetry, and the ability to, one of the most powerful use cases of AI, in my opinion, is the ability to feed it a mountain of data that would break my feeble human brain trying to process, and to say, pick out patterns in this data for me, please. And it generally does a very, very good job of that, and so that's where the power here comes from.
So for the threat analysis, outside of what is already there in Jamf Protect, it's also providing information from other sources. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know if MITRE is in our data sources. It most certainly is, well, I won't say most certainly. It very well might be part of the base model. We leverage Anthropic Claude for our base model, and maybe the good folks at Anthropic pulled MITRE stuff in when they were training their model. You could head out to claude.ai and ask it a question about the MITRE ATT&CK framework, and we could get a pretty good answer on that really quickly. But the information that we have provided to it is the JSON that comes in from Jamf Protect, and then that Threat Labs malware wiki, along with some specific instructions that came from our team and the Threat Labs team.
Thank you.
Yeah, great questions.
Do we have any other questions?
Is there one in the back here, or were you, no, maybe not.
Nope, okay. Okay.
If you do have more questions that you just didn't want to ask in front of everybody, I'll be hanging out up here for a little while. And I did drag Summer with me. She's one of our engineers, so you can grill her about stuff that even I can't answer. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.